All right, thank you for staying with us. It's still Sports Tonight, and later on the show, we'll spend some time to preview the Nigeria Professional Football League season starting this weekend. But before we went on the break, we were talking about the proposition by FIFA that has been endorsed by the FIFA Executive Council and the General Assembly for 2026. Guys, let's look at the World Cup. The World Cup is FIFA's greatest income generating competition.
Of course. This
is going to guarantee more money for FIFA, more games. So why are people afraid that this shouldn't happen? Left to the Europeans that Yemi was talking about, the top clubs in Europe, there wouldn't be any competition apart from club competition.
Yes.
But that's going to be counterproductive.
You said something that we are going to see more games and we are going to get more money. So more games in football leads to more money. So if at all in FIFA World Cup, when it comes to 2026, we are getting more games, FIFA should be expecting that, okay, we'll be smiling home with more money. And if you look at what we are going to get when it comes to TV rights, when it comes to playing more teams, and when more teams actually converge together to VAT for honors like this, is that we are going to get more money actually being brought to table for sponsorship and other things. So, and you said something the other time talking about what normally happens year in, year out when it comes to FIFA World Cup like this, that FIFA uses it as an avenue to make more money and to even finance every confederation and every nation registered on that day.
Yeah.
So if at all we have more nations coming on board and we have more money coming on board, definitely in the coming years, FIFA will have more money to actually use to support other nations, talking about developing nations when it comes to football in the world at large.
You mean there are different views or formats being talked about after FIFA came out with this pronouncement.
Yeah.
Some people are saying there are going to be 16 groups, 3 teams, only the top 2 teams will qualify. A lot of things are going on about how this will probably work out. It's really going to be interesting to see. But it's still a long way off.
It's not too far away, just 9 years. I think it's going to be interesting. The one that's postulated as common, we're talking about 16 groups of 3s and 2 teams qualify, and from that on, getting to the round of 32.
Yes.
You're going to take away the 16 teams away. It's going to be knockout till you get a winner. That's what FIFA is proposing. That's why it's going to, according to Gianni Infantino, I think most of the questions we need to ask, he has answered. So it depends on the divide. Is FIFA doing this for more money, or they're doing it because they want more teams to participate?
And it's dream about
it. And it's easy to see.
It is very easy to
that
see.
They want more
when
teams.
The World Cup was 16 teams. Africa probably had half sports.
Yes, half sports. Yes.
When it became 24 teams, we had 1. We had 2.
When it was
12, we had 1.
Yes,
we had 1.
When it was 24,
it was very difficult at that time because I remember that some of the teams, a story about a Ghanaian team that could have gone all the way, that happened to pull out because they felt that FIFA was not fair in giving Africa just one slot. All right, but then it grew, and Nigeria had a chance to go in 1994 when we had 3. For Africa. If it was only 1 for Africa, Nigeria probably wouldn't.
I think a lot of people, and I don't think it's fair to Africa, I think a lot of people still remember what happened to Zaire when it went to the World Cup.
And they were hammered,
the drubbing. And I think we've gone way past that. Even Oceania and all of those countries. You see, talking about European clubs, they're not just complaining about Europeans. You have players scattered abroad that play for European clubs. So Oceania does not need to have, whatever country in Oceania does not need to have their players playing in the country. They might just have players scattered. That's why the Europeans are really concerned, not just for themselves as Europe.
Same with the Asians. They can make do with.
You understand?
So, best of football.
I don't understand. To be honest, I don't understand the reason for the.
Okay, let me read a few comments on Twitter. Alfred Okoligo, a very good friend, who is always a part of Sports Tonight on Fridays, is talking about for fairness, all the confederations having the same number of teams to the World Cup. That's going to be very, very tough. But the South Americans have the edge. Almost everybody will be there.
Yeah, of course.
Almost everybody will be there for South America. For Africa,
once 9 out of increased slots.
Once they get increased slots. For Europe, a lot of representation, but for Africa, the percentage is still the lowest.
Yeah, it's still the lowest because we have the highest number of registered nations under FIFA. So if you now look at it very well, saying that Africa we have the lowest, I quite agree with you.
In terms of percentage?
In terms of percentage, owing to the fact that we are looking at maybe 4 or 5 will be added at the long run.
4 more, probably 4 more, making 9.
Making 9 or 10. So if you look at the South Americans, the South Americans, you look at them, they have about 4 that normally qualify directly and
1 playoff.
And we are looking at maybe 2 or 3 will be added, maybe 6 will be qualifying directly, and 1 will be
about 10 now for South America.
About 7.
That's what they are proposing,
About 7 or 8 or 10 for them. Anyhow it goes. But if
their qualifiers will just be for classification.
No, but their qualifiers are always very tough. I'm not seeing a change to how they'll do it.
Yeah.
They'll just tell themselves that look, the top 10
politically
teams or the top 9 teams qualify.
But looking at what he has said politically, I think as Africans we should recognize the power that we have, and that power was used well during the last elections. And I'm not saying we should always vote as a bloc, but we realize that we could make this happen, that now there is some sort of democracy. Numbers really count.
Of course.
And if numbers count, you can make your voice heard, and you can get things to go in your way in terms of hosting FIFA competitions, in terms of getting some of those lucrative projects that FIFA is always giving to countries, and develop the game. That's what's on the political side.
But let me just add this thought. If you just look at it very well, one among the things I think they are going to consider in increasing the numbers of nations that will be coming from each continent, they are going to look at how developed their football is. Look at
the impact they make at the World Cup.
The Europeans and the South Americans have been the nations winning the World Cup.
So Africa's best performance has been the quarterfinals, and that was in
Cameroon, Senegal, and Ghana. That is all we had. So we should be expecting that the Europeans and the South Americans.
At least I remember the Asians have been to the semi-finals. When they hosted.
Once, yes, South Africa.
But when Africa hosted, it was when Ghana got to the quarterfinals.
Yes,
we were close to the semis.
Thanks to Luis Suarez.
Almost doesn't kill it. But that's the way it is really. But let's wrap up this discussion by listening to players. Some players have also been speaking about their support for the expanded World Cup. We'll listen to them, and then we'll be back with more on the show. By the time we're back, Cosmos Chukwuemeka will be joining us on the show.
There is still parents said of missing, but it is coming.
I don't know what you're talking about. You find the money for the World Cup. Nation, country, continent who like and love and to have the World Cup in their country, so they will create infrastructure to make it happen. I believe that after Russia, who is going to be good, I hope, the Qatar World Cup 2022 will be an amazing World Cup, especially we'll have all the tournaments in one city with all the stadium, transport and everything, logistic will be perfect, I'm sure. So this is not a problem. Never talk about money. Money is not a problem in football. It's growing. Football entertaining everyone. The broadcast wants to buy the TV right. The stadium are full. People go crazy. The Chinese are coming. The Indians are inside the system soon. So we are not scared about that. What is important is that FIFA make in place a good system to really bring, a huge entertainment interest, and at the same time to bring the business higher.
But still, nevertheless, we still want that edge that you're looking for in the competition. And once we don't lose that edge, I'm all for the 48. Yes, because football is becoming such an, global sport everywhere. Everyone wants a piece of the pie, and it's great to see. But at the same time, we got to make sure and safeguard that football is the same quality that is aspired that everyone loves to see when the World Cup comes around.
All right, so that's some reactions for you. Marcel Desailly, World Cup winner with France in 1998. And of course, you had Dwight York as well. Trinidad and Tobago also had a chance to be at the World Cup. All right, so that's the reactions there. Well, Cosmos Chukwuemeka has joined us on Sports Tonight. We'll give him the opportunity to tell us what he feels about it very quickly. Before we go on to some of the other things we have lined up on the show tonight. 48 teams. Yeah. A lot of interesting stuff on Twitter about how countries like Mauritania can now begin to dream. But then you know, anything can happen in football.
Yes,
we've had a World Cup where Togo qualified, Angola qualified, and Nigeria missed out. So anything can happen. These countries can dream.
Of course.
And that's, I think, is what Infantino is trying to encourage.
Yeah, certainly. And I think it's the right step in the good step in the right direction. For me, I feel is a way to develop football. I mean, you just talked about countries that before times would never dream of playing in the World Cup, and a few of them have actually had the opportunity to play in the World Cup. I mean, this is so good. Zaire went to the World Cup in 1973, when 1974 when it was hosted by West Germany at the time, and they have not been to the World Cup since then. Now, this will give them an opportunity to, you know, dream and say that we can be able to get to that World Cup. And of course, Togo went to the World Cup in 2006, but then they have not been to the World Cup again. Angola, you know, these are countries that they probably think maybe the next time will be to the World Cup is maybe in 2050 or something, but they have a chance of actually being in the World Cup in 2026. So I think it's a good one. For me, I do not think the standard of the World Cup is really going to reduce. I feel the standard of the World Cup will pretty much improve, and FIFA understand that. FIFA President Infantino understands that, and of course the players like Desailly and of course Dwight York, they understand that as well. Dwight York only played in the World Cup towards the twilight end of his career.
That was when Desailly qualified.
Desailly was in the World Cup, won the World Cup, was in the World Cup final twice, 1998 and of course in 2006, and he understands what the World Cup is. And as at the time, Desailly is a Ghanaian. As at the time he played for France, Ghana did not even dream that they would be at the World Cup. But later on, Ghana now started going to the World Cup, and they went to about 3 World Cups on the bounce. So he understands it, and he understands that players, it will actually improve the profile of players, improve the profile of countries, and certainly the World Cup unifies the world, and it will be another avenue to unify the world again.
All right, let me read a few comments. Let me read this comment on Twitter. Prince Belu says, now that so many nations, 48, will be in one country at a time, that's going to raise some concern, and it is encouraging now to consider co-hosting, which is a possibility. Co-hosting is now something that FIFA will gladly consider, because 48 nations in one country with their fans could sometimes be overwhelming. So now the possibility of co-hosting, particularly with countries that are so close together, West Africa, for example, I'm talking about West Africa, putting together a bid. This is a good way to start.
It's a good way to start. If you take a causeway look at it, you definitely agree with some of the guys that are talking about co-hosting when it comes to having more nations. When it comes
48
to
nations.
48 nations when it comes to playing that World Tournament. But I think to a large extent that FIFA, to some particular extent, would not say yes to such a thing, because during the 2002 FIFA World Cup, they did cry out that what they did experience moving from one nation to the other actually was not so easy for them. Actually, create
do you think if that was a problem with 32 nations, FIFA will still complain now that they have 48 nations?
I mean, I think they will be looking out for a nation that is ready to occupy.
How many nations in the world can conveniently absorb 48 countries?
There have been talks that the 2026 World Cup is going to be hosted in North America, and the talks that United States, which is supposedly the biggest country in the world, to host the World Cup. But then there are even talks about the fact that the United States might probably be co-hosting either Mexico or Canada.
All right, let's pause. Let's go on a quick break. When we return from the break, we'll shift our attention to the Nigeria Professional Football League on Sports Tonight. Join us again.